Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for being with me here today. So today I'm going to work on a layout for these photos of my son from earlier this winter playing with a new Christmas toy. I might end up reprinting them later because my at-home printer really didn't catch the colors very well, but I think they'll work for what I'm working on today. I'm also going to use some pattern papers from my February Hip Kit Club subscription, so I'm really excited about those. And then I pulled out this green piece of cardstock, also from Hip Kit Club, to mat my photos. So I'm working off of a sketch from Page Maps that I found on Pinterest, and I think this is going to work well for my two photos. I'm just eyeballing about how big I need those pieces to be, so I've decided to take this multicolored pattern and cut it down 3 inches by 12 inches. And I chose this one because it has all sorts of different colors in it. And even though my photos didn't print very well, there are a lot of different colors from all of the toys and things that are in my son's room, mostly on the floor, of course, in a big mess. And so that other piece I cut at 6 by 12 inches. So now that I have everything cut and I went ahead and inked the edges of those papers, I've also pulled out a bunch of the die cuts and vellum letters and all sorts of embellishing bits and pieces that come in my subscription kit. And I've kind of pulled out some of the ones that I think might work. So I'm going to use this time just to kind of lay everything out and see what I might want to use. I was really drawn to these letters that came in my kit. I've got the whole alphabet plus a few pieces of punctuation, and they're vellum, and they're really fun. So I have an idea for those that I'm going to show you later. And then I also got these glittery foam alpha letters, stickers in my kit. And so I think I might try to use the orange colored ones just for an additional pop of color. So I'm going to end up building that title a little bit bigger than just the word fun. Now I used some of my scrap cardstock after matting my photos, and I used one of my die cuts that I have in my stash just to create these two little scallop pieces, and I thought it would be fun to layer those staggered at the top and the bottom of that one piece of pattern paper. I was really obsessed with this cute little film strip that came in my die cuts, and so I decided I wanted to try to layer that somewhere. I was hoping I could make it work underneath one of the photos, but it was getting a little crowded with the title. And so what I'm going to do instead is use it to start building up an embellishment cluster at the top of my page. It did show a little something like this on that sketch, so I'm kind of using that as an inspiration. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to begin with the biggest pieces in my embellishment cluster. So I've got that big photo strip, I've got that green cardstock scallop piece, and then I was just kind of looking for then some medium-sized pieces. So I grabbed that fun little camera, or actually it's not a camera, I take that back. It's a little radio, which I thought was cute. And then some smaller things like the circle and the heart, and I'm just going to kind of play going from larger to smaller as I'm trying to layer some things up. I also pulled that really fun little old-fashioned TV, and that's a chipboard piece that came in my kit, and I'm going to put that down in a second cluster. And then I was trying to figure out what to do with that tag. So I ended up not using it because the lines were going in the wrong direction. But again, just trying to figure out all of the different clusters here and getting at least 3 of them on my page. Now, I had this idea from one of the design team members for Hip Kit Club. She took the vellum letters and put them on some white cardstock and then fussy cut them out. And then she stitched down the center of them. So I'm going to do that too because, of course, I love anything that involves stitching. And I want to say that was Allison Davis that did that from the design team. So I really loved that idea. Now, also for my kit, I had these fun different colored squares that had some like silver foil words on them. And so I pulled one and I just trimmed it up a little bit to make it into a banner. And I'm going to add that to that embellishment cluster that I've got going up at the top. So a little later, you'll see where I try to move things around and make that work up there. Again, kind of going from the larger pieces to the smaller pieces. So here is where I am borrowing that idea of stitching in the letters, and I'm just going to grab a ruler here to make sure I get my lines straight. And then I'm just going to poke some holes down the center of each part of the letters. So off camera, I will end up stitching that to my layout later, but I leave it unstitched just for now so that I can make sure that I know where I want everything to go. So there you can see I have layered that green flag with those silver foil letters on it. I think it says real life, if I remember correctly, which I think is kind of fun, because these are some pictures of my son playing with a toy that he got for Christmas this year. And it was this little robot toy that my mother-in-law gave him, and it had all sorts of different modes. And so it would do things like climb over things and I don't even know what. So he had rigged this little contraption between his two windows there with some of the, I don't even know what it was. It was like a canvas belt kind of thing that came with the robot, and he was trying to make it climb between the two. So he was just having a fun old time hanging out in his room one weekend day all by himself. So I think what I'm going to do for my title, just to kind of capture that, is to say Alexander's fun new robot. When it comes to titles, I'm not very creative. I just kind of say what it is. So I am adding a little bit of liquid glue behind those foam letters just to make sure that they're going to, stand the test of time and stay stuck down to my page. So that's the other reason I wanted to wait to do the stitching on the fun letters so that I could actually put that ruler down and have it flat to my page, because I knew I was going to need to glue these foam letters on. So now that I've got the rest of the title done, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing some more things down. So I'm adding this chipboard TV. This is going to end up being a smaller cluster than the one that I have going up at the top of the page. But again, I am looking for 3 points total. So I like to make that visual triangle when I'm creating some embellishment clusters on my layout. As long as they form some sort of triangle, then that's pleasing to the eye. So this will be the bottom second point. And then I'm continuing to add just a few more things up there at the top. So I have some orange now in a couple of different places. So you'll see that as I continue to add my embellishment pieces down, I'm looking to also balance the colors. So I'm going to need to get some more of that orange color in the third point at the bottom. And so that's another thing that I like to do when I'm building those clusters up. So here I have glued down those letters that I cut out. Again, I backed them on some white cardstock and then I fussy cut them out. And I'm going to actually stitch them down directly to the page just to make sure that they lay nice and flat on there. And since I had already poked those holes, once I had them glued down, it was pretty easy to go right back through the holes I had already made and make some additional holes onto my actual layout paper. And then I used some coordinating embroidery thread just to go through each of the letters. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out. Then once I had that stitched, I thought, you know what, let me add a little bit more thread in a couple of other places here on the layout. Again, kind of thinking about that rule of 3, right? So I have it on the letters and I want to add it to 2 other places in my layout. So in the spot where I have those little green scalloped, what do you want to call it? I don't know. It's just like a little strip that I had cut out. I'm going to put a stitch down there, and then I'm also going to put a couple of stitches up underneath that green banner. So now I have 3 points of stitching on my layout. Okay, so here's where, again, I'm back to trying to figure out a little bit more orange down in this TV cluster here. I just think this TV is so cute. And it's fun because that center part can pop out. So you could layer like a photo or something behind it, or even maybe turn it into like a shaker of some kind, potentially, I don't know. But I left that journaling piece that came in the middle of it in there. So I will end up adding the date to that later off camera. And now I want to get just a little bit more orange up there at the top. So I try moving these hearts around for a while, but I'm going to end up putting it next to his name on top of the N. And then I forgot that I had a couple of other things too. So later you're going to see that I pull in, I have these sparkly foam, I don't know, there's like stars and dots and hearts and things like that. So I'm going to use some of those to bring in that orange color. So I'm just continuing to kind of test out a few things. I did have these photo corners that came in my kit. I tried to use those, but I didn't really love them because the one photo was not on straight. And so it kind of looked a little wonky to have them in opposite corners, but the photos were not, lined up perfectly straight. So here's where I decide to go with those sparkly little foam stars, and I'm going to grab them. I'm going to use all of them actually in that one color. And add them to each of my 3 clusters. So again, kind of thinking about building up from large pieces to middle-sized pieces to smaller pieces, trying to keep the same, type of embellishment in each thing. So like stitching in all 3 places, keep the same color in all 3 places. And so that's just a really easy way to go about adding some embellishments to your page. If you ever struggle with that, I know it's definitely something that I still work on, but I feel like I have gotten better over the years, just kind of using some of those design rules, if you want to call them guidelines, I guess. Rules are meant to be broken. I added a couple of pieces of cardstock here under my title that I'll just do for some quick little journaling. My title really kind of says most of it, so I don't have a whole lot else to add, and so that's going to be just about it. This one was a lot of fun. This is kind of honestly my favorite sort of thing to scrapbook, just random little daily moments. I think it's so fun from a historical point of view for my kids to be able to go back and, take a peek at what did my room look like when I was 8 years old, and oh look, I can still see a favorite toy sitting there on the floor, and just kind of see things from that point of view. So only the 2 photos, but I think still a really great memory to capture. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye.